You may find yourself at a moment of crisis, or feeling overwhelmed, or feeling like you can't go on anymore, or can't bear it anymore. That's the worst end. On the lighter end, it might be that you really realize your life needs to change, your lifestyle, relationships, the choices you make. You might not know what the answers are yet, but you definitely feel that whirlpool. Today we introduce you to Lee Harris. Lee is an intuitive and channeler. Lee started self-healing around the age of 16, due to some problems encountered in childhood that led to a food addiction, and being taken to a weight loss center at the age of 10 due to obesity. Lee began exploring tarot cards and attending various workshops, continuing this for about 7 years. Then, 7 years later, Lee heard the voices of his guides. When Lee first heard them, he asked many questions, initially thinking, is this his multiple personalities? Even with that thought, after working with them for a few weeks and learning a lot, he thought, okay, if that's the case, I just won't tell anyone because it's really helpful. They first explained that, we are guides, a large group. We are a group of 88 beings, but we can also communicate with beings outside the group. So you can see us as a library of consciousness. It's not uncommon for many beings to gather together when someone's role, work, or mission is to deliver these messages. Lee calls his guides the ZS. For about 3 or 4 years, Lee worked privately with people for free, letting them communicate with the ZS while also developing his intuition. Thus, Lee could sit in front of someone, feel or sense their state, what they were going through, and where they might need to go next. A friend said, do this work, so people from all over the world would come to Lee for readings. That was in 2004, 20 years ago. Over the past 20 years, some people who didn't like channeling would attack him, saying he was making it up, faking it, etc., because his voice would change during channeling. But Lee does think frequency has an impact, because as a channeler, the voice changes due to frequency changes. Channeling is liked for its information, but he thinks the hidden aspect of channeling is that it's somewhat like an intuition trigger. So if you choose to tune into this thing, it's not that the channeler or guide you're tuning into is super important. They might be important in your life and path, but actually, tuning into this opens up your own energy awareness and intuition. For some people, it can open their channeling abilities, but for others, it just connects them with their soul's voice, a voice not educated in us as children, but erased in our training. Lee thinks the reason we have channelers, psychics, and intuitives is not because these individuals have any special reason, but because we need these people to serve this purpose on Earth, so more people remember that part of themselves. Some of Lee's guides say they have incarnated on Earth before, some never have, and some are on other planets. You can see them as voices of galactic consciousness. But unlike some other channelers, for example, Daryl Anker and Bashar, who channel through an alien perspective, and some channel through an angelic perspective, Lee feels the ZS are more in the middle for him. For 20 years, Lee has also been doing music, bringing conscious music to the world, creating with Dava Bozic under a label called Golden World Music, dedicated to promoting the healing power of music, as well as channeling and energy work in the coming years. When Lee was 21, the ZS told him they first connected with him through music. Lee was a music lover as a child, music was like a healer for him. Although he didn't understand it then, he would obsessively listen to albums, artists, and singer-songwriters. In some ways, they guided and helped him through those times. At 21, Lee participated in many musical theatre productions, so music has always been a part of his life. In January 2016, when Lee was channeling the ZS in London, they said 2017 to 2024 would be very turbulent years on Earth, years that would be game-changing, tearing apart the foundations of old energies, and creating a certain level of planetary revolution. Although they said it wouldn't just look like the revolutions you've experienced before, where you often think of it as going out and protesting in the streets. They said that would be part of it, but it's bigger, more cosmic, and energetic. They said we've been in an energy war for years, and now it's surfacing, hence many ugly truths society is awakening to and having to face to enter a new stage, where the consciousness we establish as a planet can be the way we build the future, instead of the old ways trying to drag us back or impose more oppression. So when you look at the world now and what we're dealing with, you would say, oh, yes, I can see this happening. But the ZS said from 2025 onwards, we would see more concrete and undeniable evidence of future possibilities, and these things would become more evident. Lee feels that although 2024 will be tough in many ways, we have to go through this year. Lee intuitively feels that this year we will see more people in society awakening to things they were previously unwilling or unable to see, and the ZS always say this is a turning point. They say only about 30% of people need to realize and awaken to start a domino effect. Around 2010, the ZS said, if you look back, you would see how barbaric it was then. They said those who don't like what they see now don't know how much has already changed. This thought has been lingering in Lee's mind, and he has heard similar things from other voices, philosophers and researchers. Actually, it's much more peaceful now than ever before, and it's hard to truly figure out what's happening. So have things really gotten that bad? Or is it just social media and news reporting making us feel that way? It's a good point. The ZS said from 2025, we would enter a new timeline, essentially, a new world can begin, but the next 7 years will be very challenging. Sometimes it will shock many people and awaken many who previously hadn't seen some corruption, injustice, or imbalance in the world, perhaps, because they were just busy surviving, struggling within a system that forces most to struggle to survive. But they say for many lightworkers, a term they use to mean those with a mission to uplift and help here, you are still human. So you can still have bad days, you still experience things you're here to learn, you're not just a beam of light. But your mission, focus, in your work or actions, or the way you show up for family and friends, consistently returns to, I want to promote love, harmony, connection here. I hope to help reconcile the world rather than cause more war, destruction, aggression. If that's your focus, they say, many of you will simultaneously experience some golden moments throughout this period, because your goal will become clearer, you will know why you're here. You are here for these moments, it's not a mistake. Of course, there are countless wars happening simultaneously in the world. They have been talking about a war template rooted on Earth for over 10,000 years, which we are somewhat trapped in. This period, over the next 100 to 200 years, offers an opportunity to break it. But that's the problem, which is difficult for most who want the world to be different, to be a more harmonious place, hoping all these things don't happen. They say the enhancement of consciousness and light also makes those more aligned with dark wounds louder, more resistant, more trying to control and cling to old energy templates long present on Earth. But isn't it surprising? When you're at a party, or in a group of 50 to 100 people, it only takes one person with very aggressive, destructive, noisy energy suddenly erupting in that room to change the entire frequency. The ZS say we are moving out of a paradigm, which will play out over the next decade or two. It won't happen overnight. The gap between power systems on Earth and us people needs to close. How to close it? What kind of collateral damage will happen in the process? Lee doesn't know. That's the part that always makes Lee nervous as a human. The ZS also talk about some people we can't see or know of whose job is to help dismantle these systems, working to free us from this war system's enslavement. This includes the unequal hierarchies we are trapped in. The ZS mentioned, the mind and emotions are highly interconnected, and emotions react to your energy field. Therefore, the mind keeps everything in order and controls everything. It will replay certain things within you to prevent you from repeating past lessons. But the problem with a rigid mind is that if you were hurt in the realm of abundance 10 or 20 years ago, when someone invites you to experience abundance, your mind will start giving you all the programming, telling you why you shouldn't. But your energy field might already be ready. Your energy field might now be prepared to allow abundance through your system, because you have gone through many other lessons, learned and evolved. But if you let your mind take hold, if it is allowed to control your emotional and energy systems, it will cost you. And what you see now on Earth is what some of you might call mind control. We don't want you to run to the lab when you hear this term, but if you look at how the Earth has operated so far, this is somewhat true. This is a period in your history where everything is beginning to fall apart. In fact, you have all been through this before, but never has it appeared on Earth at this point in time. So, there is an ancient template that all of you are touching upon. And you also have to touch upon old traumas, past traumas, ancient traumas that you are familiar with. But there are also some very new things happening on Earth. A whole new level of consciousness is being born, and you are at what we call a crossroads. 2024 will be what we call the year of the big trigger. By 2030, you will potentially have the opportunity to let the sun shine on Earth more than many of you remember, even though the Earth itself has changed rapidly in the past 20 to 30 years, with both man-made changes and Earth changes, frequency changes, and electromagnetic changes in the atmosphere. So you are in a period that you might call turbulent, which is also the way the human mind fears. The human mind acknowledges that things are unstable, but you are also at the beginning of the greatest rebirth of consciousness on Earth in over 10,000 years. This is the potential you are in. For many of you, it is frustrating that more people are doing the heavy lifting with you, but guess what? You have developed the muscles and posture for this moment. Now you just need to let your mind, emotions, and energy programming relax, transform, and change so you can adapt to living on a constantly changing planet. For many of you, it is difficult to fully be willing to do this because part of you says, I want this planet to be different, but I want to experience this different planet in my current state, because that would feel good to me. And we say, no, it won't, not at all. Because once you experience that planet, you will not be who you are today, you will be very different. So what we are telling you is that not only is the planet around you changing, but if you really notice, you are also becoming very different. You are invited into this change, whether for personal or collective reasons. And now is the time. Some of your frustrations will be that you start to see better ways of doing things, and you start to feel things at higher frequencies. So, for example, you can sit in a room with 4 friends, and you might feel very calm and in a certain recognized state of happiness, because you are sitting with these people you love, perhaps loved for many years, but they are experiencing something completely different from you. You enjoy their personalities and the focus their consciousness gives them. You enjoy the way they see the world. But you are also observing the way they see the world. You have a part that is more inclusive in universal love and awareness than your friends. This is not a bad thing. By the way, this can actually deepen your appreciation for those around you, not mean you must change friendships or similar things. The only time most of you notice relationship changes now is when the frequency does not match your evolution. This can happen to people you deeply love. Relationships separate, friendships separate, changes happen, and when conflict is part of these changes, you know wounds are at work. If 2 people can let each other go lovingly and easily, maybe with emotional waves, but they can do it with respect and love. I wish you well on that part of your journey. I appreciate all the times we were together. This is love and harmony at work. When 2 people have to argue to let go of each other, it is the wound at work, which is inevitable. So once you start understanding this and understanding your personal role in these transformational times, you will actually transcend everything happening externally. We are not saying you won't be affected by external events. We are not saying you have to like external events. But what we are saying is that many of you are waiting for external changes, while completely ignoring that change is happening inside all of you. So some of the symptoms you are experiencing now should be occasional confusion, feeling confused about the world you live in, and parts of your personality not knowing how to view it, handle it, or think about it. This is correct. For those with purpose, looking for new ways, this should not happen more than 10 to 15% of the time. But as far as the actual world itself, if you pay attention, you will notice a lot of push-pull phenomena in multiple directions. So some of you are waiting for big events. Some are waiting for spaceships to land or bombs to explode or nations to collapse, or major natural disasters to destroy an area. We are not saying you want these things to happen, but some of you are waiting for big events. No, there will be a series of events, and you will see them bounce around the world, just as you have already seen. But the combination of these events will also change certain systemic forces that currently trap you. In the next 2 to 3 years, what will begin to happen is that the power systems will still want to show you their power. They will still want to prove their power to themselves and to you, but they are losing control. And we, the people, are starting to activate in power, purpose, and your vision for the future planet. So, you will experience significant personal transformations, and most of you will experience these personal transformations before seeing them ripple globally in 2024, creating a domino effect in 2025 that will begin to allow light to be sustained, nurtured, and established in 2025. Lee feels that 2024 will carry an energy of power and purpose. On a global or collective level, it will be a year full of unexpected transformations and revolutions. So, on the global external world level, we will see unexpected transformations and revolutions, while on a personal level, we will feel power and purpose. So, no matter how you look at it, it is a very powerful energy year, very, very powerful. Often after experiencing epiphanies, breakthroughs, or significant healing moments in your life, you will find yourself feeling unbalanced, strange, and low for a period of time. Lee often hears people say, "Am I regressing?" But the ZS explain that as we become brighter, more evolved, and more conscious, we shed layers of self and pain. When this happens, we may feel very expansive. But what usually happens next is that your next level, slightly lower, tighter, and more wounded, will surface because it wants to be released. So that swinging experience you sometimes have does not mean you are regressing. It is usually just part of the evolution, and now everyone is experiencing this to some extent. Another perspective is that you might say, "I have a friend who doesn't talk about energy at all, doesn't even think about their feelings and thoughts." But if you look at what is happening in the world, depending on where you live, depending on global circumstances, everyone is being challenged in different ways. So, if challenges don't find you in the form of energy, they usually find you in the form of loss, or the death of a loved one, or problems in your business or life, or something destructive or challenging happening in your area, making it difficult for people to survive. So there are many such things flying around. Then what carries us through difficult times? It is very important to remember what carries us through difficult times. That is love, connection, and purpose. Love is something we can certainly feel within ourselves, for life, for the universe, for everything, but it is also something we share with each other. We help lift each other up, and then there is connection, connection with others, connection with what you truly believe in. There are many people on Earth who are not interested in humanity, and that's okay. They are here for nature, they are here for animals, they are here for a cause, they are here. Because they really don't want to spend too much time with a lot of other humans, but they are here to be architects for the Earth or future humans. So this brings up purpose. What is your purpose? Sometimes helping others when you are going through a difficult time can reset you and get you back on track. If you are currently going through a clearing period, let's say you are clearing a lot, you are one of those I talked about, then can you use this time to hibernate, rest, and reset? Can you use this time to hibernate, rest, and reset? Now, most of our lives or responsibilities are not so free that we can take a week off to rest, hibernate, rest, and reset. If you want to create a vision or realize the future, you will bring everything from the past and present with you. It is important to recognize what you are grateful for, what brings life and light to your life, your surroundings, the earth and the world, and to organize your reflections in this way.